has a business card. Let's see. I don't know what else it has. It's got a whole bunch of articles on different things that he's found over his past 45 years that he feels are necessary to continue to share. Let's see. He's got a bunch of layouts of like different ways of you can list and then you can buy, or you can buy and then you can list, and how both of those would look. He's got different, yeah. And
it's a folder with 100 pages or more. It's a physical folder, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to back up for 1 second because I just hit the record. I thought it auto recorded and it didn't. So I just want to do a quick brief intro so that when it's saved, people know what class we're taking. So this is the Systems Mastermind, and today we're talking about listing systems. We identified up front the 4 key parts to listing: our pre-listing, our listing appointment, the prepping to go live, and the post going live. So those are the 4 segments we're going to talk about today. And we're just diving into the pre-listing packet and the importance of a pre-listing packet. Katie, thank you for sharing what your team does. Let me ask you one more question, Katie, before we move on. How are you delivering that pre-listing packet to the seller before the appointment?
Well, Bob goes on a pre-listing appointment because he likes to do everything in person. So he will either do a drop by and just drop this off, or he will set up an appointment to talk about staging and listing and what that looks like, and to walk through the house before he does any sort of listing appointment at all.
Okay, so he's doing a lot of 2-step appointments in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So everyone's going to have their own, way of delivering this. Let's do a quick brainstorm. We'll type in the chat box. I want everyone to participate just by typing. Let's do a brainstorm exhaustive list of what are the kinds of things that could be included in a pre-listing packet. And if you have one, share, like Katie, you just shared a bunch of stuff, but some people are visual learners. We like to see it in front of us. So what are the kinds of things that you would put in a pre-listing packet? And you can shout it out too if you prefer. Remember, it's to establish credibility, right? So do you think having some testimonials or reviews on yourself would be a good thing to include in that packet?
Yes.
Awesome. What else?
I've had a lot of luck with the seller's net sheet. I don't know if that's part of this or the next step, but I've had a lot of positive feedback from that. The sellers appreciate that.
Yeah, that is great. And I think that probably falls more into the listing appointment itself.
Yeah.
It's a great tool, and I love that you incorporate that into your process. They do get a lot of value. Shannon says, info about the team, what we promise we will do for you, testimonials. Thank you. Yeah. What Shannon's speaking to there is the pre-listing packet. If you don't want to give away the farm necessarily, right? But the more you can educate them on who you are, what your unique value proposition is, a little bit about what you do. Imagine, I remember hearing Ben Kinney say once in a class, imagine walking into an appointment and saying to the seller, is there anything we need to talk about today? I see that you got my pre-listing packet. Is there anything we need to talk about today other than price to get started with your property? Right? If you see that they've read it, maybe we can talk a little bit about sending it electronically as well and actually being able to see if they open it. But just being able to walk in with confidence. I see you've been able to browse through my packet of information. Is there anything we need to talk about today? I know it has a lot of information in there. Is there anything we need to talk about other than price before you're ready to get started and list with me? What a close, what an assumptive closing question, right? And if they're that high C personality, even high S personality that probably will take the time to look through it, like I'm the high D, right? I'm probably not going to take time to look through that. That's okay. This doesn't necessarily appeal to the high Ds, but the high S's, high C's, they're probably going to sit there and do their homework. How awesome would it be to show up and you don't even have to have the listing appointment because your pre-listing packet sold you and you sold yourself and did all the heavy lifting for you. Nicole, info about the market. Yep, that absolutely would be a great thing to include. CMA. So I love that you brought that up. I would not include that personally, I would not include that in the pre-listing packet because you don't want to give away all the goods. Otherwise, why do they need to meet with you, right? So you want to.
Yeah, I was just thinking that after I take that, I thought, oh, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I thank you for saying it. I definitely think that's an important part of the listing appointment itself. So Katie shared earlier that they deliver, Bob delivers the pre-listing packet in person. That's like what he wants to do. That's his system. Does anyone have one that you deliver electronically?
I used to. This is where I'm in a rebuild phase of everything. So I used to try to email it because for me, that's why I always say kind of half and half, because when I get those appointments, I try to make them as close to the actual phone call and request for the appointment as possible. So
Yeah.
sometimes I've only got like, I'll barely have enough time to do a CMA, you know, like I just got a call an hour ago and I'm going to meet with them tonight at 6.
Okay.
Just going to
So-
go for it.
Yeah, and you know what? In a market like this, go for it. Go get that listing, right? The more that you can have a foundation and a packet ready to go, the better. And it doesn't need to be customized every time. Although you might want to consider if you start branching out into specific areas, like if you start becoming a lake expert, let's say, right? I have a lot of agents in our Gateway office that are specialized in waterfront or have a lot of focus there. I would say you'd probably want to create a general template for the main market and then a lake or a luxury template for that type of seller. We do on our team, we have some canned emails through MailChimp. We haven't transitioned to Command yet. It's on our docket for the future. So we have everything through MailChimp and Follow Up Boss. And we have a canned template that's customized to each agent that goes out so they can start running an action plan right when they set an appointment. They click Start Chelsea Action Plan or Start Alex Action Plans. We do this before a listing appointment and a buyer consult. And it has a little bit about the team. It has a couple videos of the agent talking about their area of expertise. And then it links them to our YouTube page where they can see other videos. I think there's a spot to click to reviews. There's a spot to click to past sales so they can see what we've sold in the past. And then we also do like an FAQ. So if you can develop some kind of frequently asked questions sheet that you would encourage a homeowner to ask when they're interviewing agents. So I think ours looks something like it has 10 FAQs that we would encourage a seller to ask an agent, and then it gives our answer underneath it. So it's almost like they're asking us and we're giving them the answer, and we're encouraging them to ask other people the same thing so they can kind of compare apples to apples. I'm trying to think, Shannon, is there anything else on there that you recall, or you're not really familiar with that because that's more on the upfront side?
I actually don't think I've seen all of it. I know I've set them up for Chelsea, but maybe I should set myself up so I can see exactly what it
Just to
shows.
see it. Yeah, I'm probably more familiar on the front end.
I can share
Either
what's
way.
on mine, Susan.
What's that, Andrea?
I can share what's on mine in my
Oh,
pre-listing
perfect.
packet if you're interested.
I'd love that.
Okay, so mine has, are you hearing reverb on mine?
What's
I hear
that?
reverb. I hear reverb on my speaker.
Yes, every time you speak, we hear it.
I wonder why. I hear it too. I don't know why it's happening. I don't
I
know.
think you're good now.
Am I good? I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. Okay, so I have the introduction with my value proposition first. I have a resume in there because I have a legal background before real estate. I have my testimonials next, and then why I work with a realtor. I talk about my marketing program and my marketing strategy, how we determine a home price. Then there's something for them to tell me more about their home and why they love their home. Then the next thing is documents that I need for them to have ready for me when I come over, because then when I see that pile on the table, I kind of know that I think I have that listing. Then I have a newsletter that I prepared about getting your home ready inside and out and what we're looking for their house to be ready for photos. Then my service guarantee, and then I either mail it out if I have time or email it if I don't. So that's pretty much what's in there.
Awesome, thank you. I only muted myself because I wasn't sure if maybe the
If it was
reverb
you?
was happening on my end. 'Cause
It is.
Is it?
Mhm.
Can you guys understand me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if it's my computer or if I'm in, because I'm in like a glass room at Gateway, if there's some background noise, I apologize. That's awesome. That's super thorough, Andrea. I love it. There was something you said in there that made me think of something and I lost my train of thought. Oh, I know. Another thing that we do inside of that is because you had you give them homework like to prepare, like get these documents ready, right? And then if it's sitting there, you probably got the listing. Love that. We also have a link inside of ours that says click here to complete your client profile. And when they click here, they can enter information in like their name, their email, which we probably already have if we're sending them the email, right? But it just gets them in the process of giving us information, their birthday. I might ask some other questions, but we know if they filled that out, right? Because that gets sent back to us before the appointment, that they're already considering themselves a client because of the way it's worded, complete your client profile. Thank you for
I love
typing
the
that.
fact, did you say you asked for their birthday?
Yeah. Yeah, because all that information,
That's on mine.
right? All that information we end up putting into our database, right? So we can celebrate. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Well, and we also know, look, if they're filling that out, they're definitely,
Yeah.
we're probably close to getting this listing. So, and I think there's a lot of value to Katie, what you said about Bob delivering this in person. I mean, that gives you that belly to belly where maybe you haven't met this person. Now you actually have put a face to the name. The email approach is a time saver, right? And you can deliver video and more different format than just paper. So there's pros and cons to everything. The in-person gives you a deeper relationship. The email is quicker, faster. So you got to figure out what works for you. I guess my biggest piece of advice would be create your list and don't feel like you have to do everything. You start small, start with the top. What is the number one thing I should do? Maybe add a couple and then it'll grow over time. Sometimes with systems, we get overwhelmed. I don't know if anyone can relate. I get overwhelmed if I want it to be perfect from day one. So let me just start somewhere and start using that and then build on it as I go. Okay. Questions on the pre-listing packet of materials before we move on to the listing appointment? Okay. So let's move to the listing appointment, and we're not going to spend too much time inside of the listing appointment because we're mostly focused on systems, right? Versus we could get into a whole conversation around like the scripts and what to say. But I do think there's value in talking about the system of a listing appointment in the sense of, do you typically have an order of the way you do things, right? So Andrea, I'll ask you, I know you're a very seasoned agent and you work with a lot of sellers. When you think of Andrea's listing appointment, do you have a specific order of events that you like to achieve and why?
I do have an order. You're gonna have to mute yourself because that's happening again. Okay. I do have a folder that I bring with me. So I have a folder that is with my logo on it. And then I also have real estate folders, yellows and grays for listings and buyers. So in my red folder, the one that's logo that's personalized is what I'm going to leave with my seller. The other one I'm going to take with me with the things that they have filled out. So when I go to the house, I've always been one to let them dictate if we sit to the table first or if we look at the house first. I have always felt like I want to get to know them and what their preference is, and I'm not there to take over. So if they want to show me the house, because they're the ones who always ask, do you want to see the house first? And I say, whatever is best for you. They're like, well, let's look at the house, because I think they're proud of their house, and we should be too. So I really go with what they want, and it's helpful for me to see the house and kind of have a conversation with them before we sit down, because there's some friendliness that happens when we go through that. And then I go through my documents. So all my, my documents, I do my left side, then my right side. I have them in an order specifically. And so my onboarding comes in where I ask for their birthday and their pets and their kids. And all of that, because I do send out birthday cards and, you know, home anniversary cards. And I just start by asking, and I always say, if you ask 12 questions, then you know that you're building a rapport with somebody. So there's questions that I ask, and that's how I start. It's always asking, it's always coming from looking for information from them. And that's really where I go until I get to the agency, because that's the thing that I know I have to have signed. And even though I don't always sign like an exclusive office, if we're not ready to put the house on the market, once they sign agency, it's almost like they almost feel like they're going to be working with you, because you do have to explain how New York State requires that. So that, I think, is always my hook in having them work with me. And I have to say, I'm a referral agent, so I don't go on a lot of competitive listings. I almost walk in the door and I'm pretty 95% sure I'm going to get that listing, because that's someone told me about them, or there's someone I've worked with in the past. I mean, last year, I think I had one that wasn't, and that was the Every Door Directs that I do with Premium. I ended up getting a listing out of it. She interviewed 3 people and I got it, but that's not my norm. So I don't know if what I do is helpful, but I just talk more about the house. Then I go in. To me, they usually know about me. I fill out the onboarding and sign the agency, and then we schedule when we're going to do photos and stuff. So, is that helpful?
Yes, thank you so much. I was slow to the trigger to unmute myself. Thank you, Andrea. There's a lot of good nuggets in there, and I want to dive deeper on a couple. Andrea talked about all the documents that she has, right? So let's take a step back and think of a checklist that we can create for ourselves, so that every time you go on a listing appointment, you know, these are the documents you're bringing, okay? Because I know what it can feel like to be so excited we have an appointment. Okay, now I got to prepare. And if we don't have a system of how we do this every single time, could we miss something, right? Yes. So let's just outline the documents we should be bringing to a listing appointment. So Andrea, you mentioned, you know, you're bringing agency disclosure. Absolutely. Because we should all know that whether we sign that listing or not, we're signing an agency disclosure agreement, because we talked about substantial items, correct? We talked pricing, we talked certain things. So they need to know in that conversation, we were representing them as a seller's agent, even if they don't hire us, okay? So you want to print out certain forms, your agency disclosure, fair housing, definitely have a contract with you, an exclusive right to sell. You're walking in there prepared to sign that contract that day. And I would say those are the 3 most important. You can get MLS input sheet, all that other stuff done later, but at least those 3 at a minimum. To be extra prepared, bring the whole packet of information. But generally, I find we're doing the MLS input sheet at a later time, okay? Then I always print out the tax record. And I print out a copy for me, and I print out a copy for them. I want them to see what the tax record says and ask, and I can validate if there's anything that they see that's wrong, because sometimes the bathrooms are wrong, or the square footages are wrong, or something's off, and that's just a talking point to verify information with your seller. Then you're going to print out your CMA, right? Any documents you're using for comparables. And then if you're doing absorption, which I always recommend as part of your listing appointment system to run a market inventory absorption, you're printing that out as well for them. Is there anything I didn't cover, Andrea, that you're printing out?
Yeah, so I print out the RPR report. RPR, Real Properties Resource. It's free. If you know your NERDS ID, you should be logging into your RPR. And just print the first 2 pages, because that gives you a valuation and a range. And the good thing about RPR is if they've done a lot of updates to the house, you can refine the value. So if you added a $20,000 roof, the value might go up $8,000. If you put in a brand new kitchen, it might go up $20,000. So you want to be mindful, because it does track a high end versus a mid-range bathroom, kitchen, roof, windows, and then you can kind of see where the value is going. So if someone wants to get a lot more for their house than you think it's worth, put in those values. You might be surprised. So RPR is a big one for me.
And are you using RPR as almost a triangulation of value? So you've got your main CMA, and then you've got your tax record that also shows like an AVM, right? And then
Yes.
your RPR.
And your Zestimate, because they're all looking at Zillow. So even though the Zestimates are 87% wrong, you got to bring it, because that's the number they're looking at. So always know the Zestimate. It's going to come up 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, and exactly. If you don't bring it, at least know it, because they're definitely going there, and you don't want to not know the number that they might have in their head. Which, by the way, I guess just to skip back to systems, I skipped right over the pre-qualification call where you have hopefully have a set of questions, right, that you're asking them, including what their motivation is, why are they looking to sell, how quickly would they like to be in their new home, do they have a mortgage balance, right? And do they have any idea of market value? Have they been watching the market? Is there a price that you're really hoping to get for the home, right? I always say, at the end of the day, I'm going to bring you the data, and I'm going to bring you what I believe the market will bear for your property. I'm just curious to know if there's a price you'd like to get for it. I'm going to be honest to let you know if we're far off, but and sometimes they answer, and sometimes they want to hold that close to the chest. So in that case, it's probably the Zillow amount, like Andrea said. Okay, so have a checklist so you have all your items and you're not hurrying at the last minute to get everything together. Are you confident you have a complete packet to bring to the listing appointment? Something else I was thinking about as Andrea was talking about the way she does her listing appointment is, when you're taking a home tour, generally you're taking notes, right? You're noting information about the house that you're learning from the appointment. Maybe the seller says in passing, and we replaced this furnace in 2011, and you're looking at the sticker and you're verifying that. You're writing those notes down. I want to talk about the collection of that information because it sounds so simple, but I find that that's something that can get lost or be all over the place if for example, one listing appointment, we're writing it on the tax record, the piece of paper, the clipboard we have. The next one, we're taking notes in our phone. The next one, we're taking notes in our notebook. And at the end of the week, after 5 listing appointments, we're sitting back like, where are the notes on 123 Main Street? And where is that? Do you guys see what I'm saying? I'm painting a picture of we don't have a system for keeping our notes straight. So there's no perfect system that is going to appeal to everyone on this call. I think you really need to understand, how do I operate? How do I like to receive information? I'll tell you what's worked for me, and then hopefully folks on this call can share what's worked really well for you. For me, I know I'm an electronic person, and I want every single thing I do in my database. So any notes from a listing appointment, I'm getting into Follow Up Boss that we use, right? If you use Command, I would be putting it in Command, because that's my one place that I know I can go to. I don't have to worry, where did I put it on a Post-it note? Is it in my car? Is it on a napkin on my dining room table? Nope, it's in Follow Up Boss, right? Now, that's for my sanity, for my own sake, but am I in an appointment with my laptop out taking notes in Follow Up Boss? No, I'm building relationship, right? So I'm either writing notes down on a piece of paper or I'm taking notes in my phone. What I found works best for me is I take notes right in my phone. So I will literally say to the seller, and Chelsea has taken on this as well, would it be okay with you if while we go through the home, I bring my cell phone with me? I might take some pictures for my own personal use. These won't be made public, but I'd like to be able to look back, especially if it's a 2-step appointment, right? And I have not seen the home at all. So I need these photos to gather intel for my CNA. Would it be okay with you? I took some photos, and I'm also going to take some notes on my phone when we talk. So if I'm typing, I don't want you to think I'm texting someone. I'm taking notes based on our conversation, right? Because then what I can do after that appointment is I sit in my car before I pull away and I'm on to the next appointment. I'm taking those notes from my whatever app I'm using. I just use my notes app on my iPhone, and I'm emailing them to myself, or I'm copying and pasting them. Usually I'm just copying and pasting them and putting a note right into Follow Up Boss. So I have one repository that then Shannon, our listing coordinator on the call, can also see, because she helps us with our remarks. So it's all in one place. So I guess I can't stress enough making sure you have some type of a system around retaining that information. Is there anyone here that does something differently that works really well for you?
You want me to keep chiming in? Okay. So there's something that I bought. I think I got it on Amazon. It's called Property Analysis, and it's a sheet that goes through all the rooms in the house. It's almost like a reminder. It says, what's the floor covering? What kind of lighting? It really is just a memory jogger when you're in a room to just check. And it's 2 pages. So it's a front and back. So it talks about all the rooms. what it could possibly have. You have room to make notes, and then I just, you can use your notes and scan it to yourself so that you have a hard version of it. And then the folders that I purchase on Amazon also are property folders. So I'm always writing all the stuff that I need and all my notes. And then inside all of these is our communication log so that we know when we need to be reaching out to people. When was the last time? When was our appointment? So everything I have on paper, but I will scan it so I have a hard copy of it, because you never know where I'm going to be when I need to pull the information up. And believe me, if I ever remember that it's a gas or an electric oven, I'll eat my hat. It's never, ever something I remember. So I'm trying to close my eyes and picture it. I'm glad you take pictures. I don't do that, but that's one of the things I write down is what type of appliances are in here. So this just jogs my memory on what I should be looking for the MLS input sheet.
I love that. Thank you. That shows another approach. And I love your folders. You clearly have some systems that are keeping you organized, because, we don't have perfect memories, and we're not going to remember all this stuff. So we have to have a system to record it. Here's another piece of advice. I think sometimes I was having a conversation with one of my agents once that they felt bad going back to the seller and asking about some things that they had already previously talked about in the listing appointment, right? Like, wait, we already talked about the age of the furnace. Now I'm going back and asking them, does that make me look silly? Does that make me look like I don't know what I'm doing? And I tried to make this agent feel very, I guess, not alone, in the sense that we don't have perfect memories. So the seller would prefer that you ask them the question and get it right than guess and maybe get it wrong, right? Plus, it gives you another opportunity to have a conversation with the seller. So don't feel bad if you don't get all the information at once and you need to go back to them. That's the point of this, is they want to see that you're being thorough, you're checking all the bases. Just don't feel bad. Okay. All right. Let's move on to let's say we got the listing. Awesome. Now the whole series of events happens next, right? So now we're going to move into the prepping to go live phase. And there's a lot of little systems inside of this, I feel like as simple as how do you get a sign on the property and a lockbox on the property, and how are you tracking your lockbox inventory, right? That's a system. So are there any, I guess we could take this in a lot of different ways. Are there any particular pieces of the prepping to go live that you want to dive into, or that might be causing you heartache? Not hearing anything from the field. Okay. So
I think it's just important to keep a list. There's so many, especially now with like social media and stuff. Like it used to be get the listing, whatever, 3 or 4 other sources of putting it out there and marketing it. And now it's like photos, video, Facebook, Instagram, signs, postcards. I do a whole lot of stuff. So it's like, I put one in this morning and I'm going, oh shit, what did I forget? What do I still need to do?
Yeah, having a listly is awesome. And a lot of those things you just pointed out were the marketing, right? Marketing, we can market a listing in so many different ways now. So having a consistent checklist of how you want to market is really great. On that checklist, I would also put some checks and balances or some auditing, where you are making sure that once you input the listing, you have a process to review it, right? Print out the realtor full report and look and make sure nothing's missing. Are the taxes correct? You're auditing and double checking the taxes. This is going to sound silly, but double check the list price, because God forbid you entered it wrong or forgot a 0, and then it looks like you took a price increase or a price decrease after you listed it or something, right? Little things like that matter. Check the schools. We even have a compliance checklist where we literally, like, Shannon has questions she has to answer. Does the school district match? Are the taxes accurate? Is the list price match the listing contract? Are the photos in the right order? Did the list agent sign off on this? Like, we're talking a team perspective, right? But have a list of those things, because without that, your brain might not remember what to check every single time. And that just keeps you sane, right? It's all about our sanity. I just want to keep us sane because we wear a lot of hats as agents. Does anybody have a process for keeping track of lockboxes that you want to share? I can share on our team. I don't know how many lockboxes we have, Shannon. What are we up to? Like maybe 30 lockboxes?
We have somewhere around there, plus combos.
Yeah. So we did this, and like when you have a team, you have agents coming and going and taking them for different listings, right? So what we do, and this might help you as well, is because let me back up for a second. I'll tell you, before we had someone take over this, we had a system, and yet what was missing in the system was like a real-time audit. So we were finding that there was some times where we would have missing lockboxes, right? Where they were at a listing and then we didn't know where they ended up. Did they get picked up by the buyer's agent? Did our sign guy pick it up? We didn't know. And there was a point where we had like 10 missing lockboxes, which at 75 to 100 bucks a pop, that's $750 to $1,000 of inventory. That's like, okay. So I think Shannon, was it you, Shannon, or maybe Isabella before you, where I was like, we need to get this cleaned up, and you guys went and cleaned that up for us? Anyways, so we label all of our lockboxes. We have a label maker. So we label them like E1, E2, E3 for electronic, and then C1, C2, C3 for combo. And then our agents are required to check out the lockbox. So even if you don't have a team with agents, you could still require yourself to check it out by having a log of, okay, lockbox C1 is on 123 Main Street. Lockbox E1 is on 123 East Street, right? So you know where they are. And then when you get it back, either you pick it up or you pay your sign guy to pick it up for you, you check it back in. I promise you, you will lose lockboxes in your career, but you will lose less if you have a system like this or something like that. Does anyone else have anything on lockboxes or even signs? Like we do audits with our sign guy from time to time to make sure he's not, we're not missing any signs out there.
The other thing with the lockboxes that are important too is to link it to the listing if you can. So that way you
Okay,
can
in
see.
Subra?
Yeah, so you can see like if there's an issue, who was the last person there.
Thank you. I didn't even think about that.
I started doing that too.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. Another thing in getting the listing ready that we've encountered a lot in the last year with just such a heavy seller's market and a lot of showings and multiple offers is with so many people going through the home, figuring out systems or ways to protect your client's home by like signage to remove shoes, lock doors, turn off lights or leave lights on, right? Like Shannon, you did a lot of work because we had several sellers say, oh, an agent left the back door unlocked, right? And I get it, agents make mistakes. We've always prep our sellers and let them know we will put rules in place for agents, and we're human. Agents are going to make mistakes. But can you share some of the things that you did, Shannon, just to try to, foolproof that?
Sure, and that was you said I'm showing instructions?
I mean, you did key tags, you did a bunch of different things to try to get agents to follow the rules in a listing.
Yep, we have a key tag that shows like if they need to leave the lights on, turn them off, to remind them to lock the doors, any special instructions. We also printed out a sign we keep right by the door that they'll see, tell them to remove their shoes, lock the doors, make sure they're all closed, turn on or like leave on the lights or turn them off. And then we also put it in the showing instructions in showing time. And I also will do a text sometimes too, just to make sure everyone sees the information.
Okay. So different layers, right? We're always looking at how can we prevent something from happening again. So anytime something bad happens, we want to fix it right away and then celebrate a little bit in the sense that how can we prevent this? This is helping us get better. Okay. During the list or getting the listing set up and ready for market, is there anything that you guys can think of that we did not touch base on inside of that? I know there's a lot, but anything major? Shannon, if you think of your systems as you're prepping a listing, anything major that we maybe didn't touch on?
I think we got most of it. I know
Okay.
I do a lot of a lot of calls like on the admin side with clients, just to help the agent out as well as like a backup to get more information.
What did you say? You do a lot of calls where?
Oh, I do a lot of calls to help out the agents on the listing side just to get some more information and make sure everything is good to go.
Well, and the other thing too, I was thinking is we typically have, and Andrea, do you have like a checklist of what are the attachments you want to put on the listing? That is definitely a system we have of, we know we want to attach the fair housing, agency disclosure, delayed negotiations, the COVID disclosure when that was a thing. And then typically we want to attach, we'll get the taxes if we have a copy of the survey, which we always ask for. So we have a list of items that we like to attach and we want to make it as complete as possible. So that's a good system to have.
I also put a binder at the house with all the documents in it. So I have a 3-ring binder with a picture on the front and all the documents, if there's upgrades or anything that they might want to see, because not everything can be made public in the supplement. So you want to make sure that they're there and the people can go through them, because just because the agent can see them, it doesn't mean they printed them out or gave them to their buyer. So I
Yeah,
make sure I have
great
that.
point. Great point. We
The
want to make sure.
only other technical thing I want to say is when you're putting a listing in and you're going to be using showing time, make sure you make the listing active and then go back to add edit and put it into showing time, because then there's no delay. If you go into showing time while it's an inactive listing, it could be up to an hour delay for it to show up in the MLS, the little box. So that's just a glitch of the system. And so just make sure that you put it active and then go in, add edit and into showing time through the listing. Then it'll come up right away as soon as you put in your exclusions or whatever restrictions you put in. They'll show up right away.
That's a
Instead of
good
getting those
tip.
phone calls.
That's a good tip. Thank you. We were talking about the attachments and I mentioned delayed negotiations, and this is just one of those compliance things. Like I think we even have in our list of compliance questions before a listing goes live, if delayed negotiations, is it in the private remarks and the public remarks? Because that's to comply with MLS. So we're, Shannon's just double checking and make sure we put it in both, right? We're also asking, did we include in the private remarks that commissions paid on net, certain things that we always want to make sure we don't forget. Let's pivot to listing goes live and what are some systems we can build in for there. And there's actually one system I really want to share with you guys and maybe even get some feedback that is brand new that my team we just kind of rallied and came up with. And here's what it was in response to. It was around showings. And we all know that showing time is a service our MLS offers. For some of us, we might remember CSS, Centralized Showing Service, which was a tool that agents had to pay for. It was not offered free through the MLS. I used to use it. I used to love it. And then once showing time came, it was kind of like, oh, well, this is free and it's just as good. So let's just use this. But for those of you that aren't familiar with showing time was actually purchased in the last year by Zillow. Now, nothing against Zillow. You can take the word off, you can take Zillow off and put Remax, Howard Hanna, Hunt, any competing broker. I don't care who you put on there. Zillow is a broker now. Zillow has an MLS and they are a broker in our board. And I think they're through the Buffalo board, but because we're an alliance between Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, they now have direct access to our data. Okay, so let's put this together. We know Zillow's goal is to build an end-to-end platform for the consumer. They own search, right? The number one place a consumer is going is Zillow. It's like the Google of real estate. Okay. Now they're a broker and they have direct access to the data, which means they don't have to go through us and through our boards. They're a member, just like Keller Williams. Now they own showings because they own showing time. So they are smarter than us and our other competitors when it comes to the data around showings. They know how many showings are happening on every single listing, right? Zillow is also, they have a lending institution. So they're starting to put the pieces together of owning end to end. There's a feature in showing time that agents can pay extra for. So right now we all have access to it for free through the board. You can pay extra, and I don't know how much it is. I don't think it's too much, maybe $9.99 a month or something small, where you can actually use the showing time offers portal where you can request that buyers agents submit offers through the ShowingTime offer portal. $9 per month for offer manager. Thank you, Andrea. Okay. I am fully on board that that is an awesome solution. Like, especially when listing agents are getting 30, 40, 50 offer. I heard of, I think it was Anthony's team that had 55 offers on a house in Greece recently. Like, that's a lot for a listing agent to maintain. I get it. And at what cost is using ShowingTime? It doesn't seem like a big deal if it's a one-off here or there. But the more we allow them to have our data, they now, if you submit offers through ShowingTime, they now have all your buyers' data that could be on the admin sheet, right? They have all the terms, because what happens is they're asking agents to go in and fill out a summary sheet of the terms, okay? That then gets sent to the seller. The offer gets sent to the seller. Even in delayed negotiations period, they're getting sent ahead of time. And then the seller is getting like a summary sheet, right? I'm sure a lot of you have an Excel spreadsheet that you use to present summary of your offers to sellers. I get that it saves us time. However, I also think it's giving data to a competitor that we don't want. And data is the #1 currency nowadays. And it's also removing us a little bit as the fiduciary if we're just allowing a computer system to send offers and have sellers read them without any insight from us or direction from us. I enjoy sitting down with a seller, even if it's on Zoom, and going through all of the offers. That's where I show my value. That's where I show how I can help them navigate this. So my team and I figured there's got to be a way around this. So what we did recently is we created a job form. You can go to 256 Willis Ave, 381 Burley Road North, I think is active right now that we're using this on. And you can see we're calling it our simple 2-step offer process, where we are asking agents to do 2 things to submit offers on our listings. We're asking them to click on a link and fill out a job form. So it's basically the same information that ShowingTime is asking you, right? It's asking the agent to fill out their name, their email, the offer price, is there an escalation, what the max escalation is, what the escalation factor is, are there any contingencies, what's the type of financing, just the high bullet points that you would put in a summary spreadsheet. And then we give them a spot to put anything else they want to share about their buyer. Here's the thought process, right? Most buyer's agents are now writing an email with a summary sheet. So rather than writing that email, they're filling out this data. So it shouldn't be too much more of a burden. And then a screen pops up and says, thank you for your submitting your offer. Don't forget to submit the purchase contract to, and then sgtoffers@gmail.com or something like that, right? So what the job form though is doing for us behind the scenes is it's giving us a spreadsheet of all that information that the agent just entered. It's giving us a spreadsheet. So it's literally creating that offer summary for us. And it's saving our listing agents a lot of time from building it from scratch. Now, what the listing agent is doing is they're still going and reviewing the offer and eyeballing it to make sure that the listing or the buyer's agent didn't make an entry error, right? Like instead of maybe it was a $320,000 offer and the agent wrote $310,000, we want to make sure we're catching that. But it's saving a lot of time, and it's a kind of a way around ShowingTime's solution. So if you're interested in something like that, I would say Jotform is the better solution. I know Google Forms is an option. What we found with Google Forms is that you cannot dictate the type of number that's entered into a cell. Whereas with Jotform, you can dictate that it's $1 with a comma versus a percentage, or, you know, so with Google Forms, we just found that if you entered like $100,000 and there was no comma, it was really hard to tell, is that 100,000? Is that a million? Like it was hard to tell how it was formatted. So that's why we went with Jotforms. And Jotform is free to a certain point. Once you start getting over a certain number of forms, you have to pay, but I think it's only like $9.99 a month. So very similar cost to ShowingTime, and we're not getting the data in the hands of Zillow. I will say on that note, our board is working on looking at different showing solutions so that we're not supporting a competitor's product within our board. Questions on that? I think whether you do something like that or not, making sure you have a system for multiple offers is really important, right? And then the last thing I'll end with, because I know we're short for time, is we do like a honeymoon process. So think about what are the first 5 days like for your seller after you list, right? We say honeymoon because, you know, when you go on a honeymoon, you're excited, you're in love, you just got married, everything's great. So when after they've signed the contract, you list the house, they love the photos, you want to make sure that honeymoon phase right after the wedding or right after the listing goes live, every day they know that they hired the right agent. So everything you're doing in those first 5 days is reinforcing that you were the right agent to hire. And so if you can just create some one thing to do every day, right? Maybe it's you're calling to check in and see if the sign was installed and how does the sign look? Does the sign look okay, right? Maybe you're calling and checking and seeing if you want them to set you up on a search for any competitive listings that hit the market that might be competing with them. You could set them up on an automatic MLS search, right? So they can watch the market with you. Shannon, what are some other things we do inside of that you can think of? I know you've done that process.
Yeah, we check all the websites like Zillow and everything, make sure all the information's correct. I also send like a PDF of the showing time each day, so they can have like a little bit easier format if they have like, 40, 50 showings scheduled. It's in a nice readable format for them with feedback. I
You're
also
sending
do
them a link to the website, right? If they want to share it on social media too.
Oh yeah, yep, doing that too, yes.
Oh.
Yep, Facebook, Instagram.
I think so she also sends an email that says, here's all your paperwork in one place, because they've gotten a bunch of paperwork throughout this process. They've probably signed a lot of things. And so she's just sending one email that literally packages all of the paperwork they've signed from day one so that they have it in one place. And that's just, I look at that as going above and beyond for them to say, wow, they didn't really need to send this, but they did. And that's awesome. So anything you can do in that 5-day period, which they know that they hired the right agent, I think is really, really important.
We do the review and the referral request too.
Oh yeah. Okay. Talk about that a little bit.
Yep. Usually like one of the last things I do is I'll just ask the client, get their feedback, how their experience was with the team. So we know, what we can improve on for the next time. And then when they've had a good experience, we have them, ask if they will fill out an online review for us. We give them 3 platforms to choose from. And then we also ask too, we're sorry we're losing you on the listing side. Who else can replace you? Because you were so great to work with.
There you go. So use that opportunity, build a system in place where you're remembering on your checklist to ask for a referral and ask for a review. You don't have to just ask for a review when the deal closes. They can review you on your process of getting them ready to list the house, right? Especially if in that time frame, let's say you ask within the 5-day honeymoon and you've already sold the house for over asking, what a great time to get a review, because their emotions are high. By the time it closes, yeah, they're still happy, but they're not in that emotion as much anymore, right? Because they're already moved on to wherever they're going, packing, all that kind of stuff. Thank you for that reminder, Shannon. Okay, so it's 3 o'clock. We're going to wrap this. However, if anyone has any specific questions, I'm more than willing to stay on for 5 minutes and talk through any specific questions you might have. Because I know we got started a little late with the Zoom being the wrong link.
Hey, Susan, it's Ramella. This is separate from systems. I did inbox you earlier about auditing my social media because I think you mentioned it at one of the meetings.
Yes.
I wanted to talk to you offline about that.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder, Ramella, because I'll be the first to admit my team knows my inbox is not the best way to reach me. So thank you for letting me know. I will reach out to you.
Thank you.
Susan,
Andrea, you were going to add something, right?
yeah, how do you handle when somebody wants you to use Offer Manager to submit your offer on their listing? You use
Is
it?
Offer Manager, is that the
That's
is
showing
that the
time.
showing time thing? I've not run into this personally. So, but I'm assuming maybe they had a listing appointment with another agent that tried to sell that as a feature. Like, how would they know about Offer Manager?
So the listing agent was asking to have
Oh,
all
okay.
submitted.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Great question. At the end of the day, we have to comply with what the listing agent wants, right? And I know there are some listing agents out there that are using Offer Manager. I'm not saying that's a choice I agree with. I respect that they made a choice for their business. And if I want to get my offer accepted from my buyer, I'm going to follow their rules, right? Just like I would expect if someone's writing an offer on SGT's listing and we're asking them to fill out this job form, they're going to comply. I mean, I don't think there's any way around it, Andrea.
Is it okay to submit maybe leaving the admin page blank?
Yeah, great question. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because I forgot about that. I would submit with the admin page blank, just so that, okay, they're going to have all the offer data, but they don't have to have your client's data.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. And who knows, right? Who knows what Zillow's doing behind the scenes with this data, but they have it, and having the data is the powerful thing.
Agreed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. This was really helpful.
You're welcome. Take care, Nicole.
You too.
Thank you, Andrea, for all of your support and ideas. Shannon, Lee, thank you so much. I appreciate it all. Have a good one, guys. I'm going to sign off.
Thank
Take care.
you. Bye.
Bye.